Hey guys, the following is an interview I did with Jimmy Oswald. Jimmy worked for me years when I was up in the flat tops. This is a great conversation and it's all over the place. All Colorado stuff. We talk about hunting mule deer in the flat tops, hunting elk in the flat tops. We touch on tips and tricks and all that sort of thing. We talk about some gear. We also talk about more of the game management things going on there, right? What should people expect in terms of this new draw situation for all the archery units, how that's going to affect draw odds. We talk about other things too, just population dynamics that are changing, all those little things. Jimmy has a very unique perspective on this. He's running one of the biggest outfitting businesses in Colorado, probably the biggest in terms of wilderness stuff. So without further ado, let's dive right into it. Guys, biltong, okay? I have been obsessed with this stuff for 3 or 4 years. Ever since I got on a keto, carnivore, paleo-esque type of diet, I've had a hard time finding healthy snacks. Biltong is a great option, particularly the slabs that have this fat on the side. That's where your energy is if you're a fat burner like me. Super simple ingredients in this, guys. Literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ingredients. Compare that to your gas station jerky. A great snack in the backcountry or just day to day. Biltong Depot is a huge supporter of my content. Go to their website, biltongdepot.com. Use my discount code CLIFFG, CLIFFG for 15% off at checkout and to support this content. Thanks, guys. All right, dude. Nice to have you back on, Jimmy. It's been a while, man.
Yeah. Thanks, Cliff.
It's a good time of year to be an outfitter in your position, right? It's like that moment of relaxation finally.
Yeah, it is, and especially this year, we don't really have. I mean, shoot, there's most of the ground's barren right now, so the horses out on pasture. I'm not in feeding, and hopefully don't have to until January. So
Yeah, so you got
pretty nice.
a little calm. Dude, it's funny, Jimmy, this morning when I was thinking that we were going to have this conversation, dude, I get asked all the time, man, by people and they're like, "Hey, do you miss outfitting? Do you miss the wilderness guiding and all of that?" And man, I'll be honest with you, I don't there's tons of aspects I don't miss about it. But dude, I miss like this time of year because I remember getting such a gigantic relief, right? Once it was all over with. And I think people who are not in the business that you're in, maybe there's some exceptions to it, right? There's probably people with like that run crazy businesses. I don't know what they are that can relate, but in general, dude, people who run normal businesses, they cannot relate to the intensity of running like an outfitting business that's your guys' volume. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but, dude, for sure not. Like, there's what business do you do 100, maybe not 100, 90% of your revenue in 90 days? You know.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, obviously, there's like a bunch of time that builds up, but like the actual like what people are paying for is happening inside 90 days. Do you know the only other business or occupation that might be that some people could probably semi relate to would be like an accountant. Um,
Oh, from a
like
revenue
tax season.
standpoint.
Yeah, or like yeah,
Yeah.
you know what I mean. Like they're just grinding it out until whatever April 18th or whatever tax days are. Um, like hardcore for a month, but
Yeah. No,
not
yeah.
not on the same like physical level though, you know?
Yeah, but it does have that. Yeah, it's like such a like an apex of business and volume, like all this buildup all year. But dude, the thing about that type of outfitting, Jimmy, like the wilderness stuff, and dude, I had to stop and reflect on it. Like now that I'm not doing it anymore, I think the intensity part of it is something also that's pretty unique, dude. Like nobody's coming to help you. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
I don't think does that make any sense to you? Like when you're in the fucking thick of it, you don't really it used to always cross my mind like, dude, today I sent out 70 horses and mules into the wilderness area and tonight it's going to be negative 15 degrees. Huh. You know what I mean? Like it's
yeah,
pretty
yeah,
intense,
but
you know?
yeah, but like, you know, I mean, I can't say like yeah, for sure, no one's coming to help you, right? But I think like up here, we've got some great ranchers close by that are, they'll like give you
Oh
a
yeah.
stock trailer to use for the day, but that's about it. You
Right,
know,
right.
they're busy. They're not coming to like, oh, your crew came down with some kind of cold and sickness. Yeah, two bad guys. Like you guys have to go out today.
Right. Yeah. And like, I mean, if you have people up there in camps, you've got to go get them the day that you told them you were going to get them. And that sounds so simple to people, but there's so much shit in that business that can go awry, or just can go crazy. And then all of a sudden, like those little things can be like pretty trying, right? Or like just an intense pressure, you know.
Yeah, and dude, like one thing that was new for me this year with the new business was all the additional trailering we had to do. Like for instance, we had a horse get kicked and he's fine now, but like pretty, couldn't go up the mountain. Well, it had a dude saddle. Like a dude was gonna ride him out that day, a
Right.
hunter. I was like, well, shit, guys, like you guys start heading up. I'll run back, swap this horse out, grab another horse, and come back. And that's for me. That's 2 hours later.
Yeah,
So
yeah, sure. Yeah, it's like another logistical thing that you gotta add into the deal. Dude, it's funny you say that, Jimmy, because one of the things I hated the most about outfitting, man, is, trailer and horses around, particularly in the late season, with
yeah,
shitty icy roads and that sort of thing. I think that's probably ironically one of the most dangerous parts of outfitting in Colorado. If you're horse and mule based, is hauling horses.
yeah. For us, yeah, we've got like from the ranch to the trailheads anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour. So one way. So you're looking at almost 2 hours every day of just trailering, and we've got 30-foot trailers that we can squeeze 14, 15 horses in, um, going down a dirt road that's not maintained, and as soon as we get off the blacktop, putting chains on,
Yeah, yeah, sure.
and then on top of it have a 17-year-old kid or 18-year-old kid driving one of those rigs. So
Right. Yeah, and that's just the nature of it. How many horses and mules you guys have total now?
between
Between the flat
the
tops
whole,
wilderness guides and then you guys
yeah,
and so forth.
it's, yeah, 120.
Jesus, man. What's your split? Horses versus mules?
uh I don't know. It's probably, it's great. Like it's funny. I don't even know how many we have, right? But um, I'd say, yeah, 2/3 mules at flat tops, a third horses. Here at Rivers Bend, it's probably 80% horses, 20% mules.
Yeah. And that isn't that funny, dude? Because it's like a cultural thing, right? Like I
Oh
had
yeah,
I always had a bunch of mules at flat tops.
yeah, yeah. When and yeah, I think it's just like the previous owner here. He didn't own a mule until he
Yeah.
bought out one of his neighboring camps, and he got a few, and he's like, not bad.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, dude, I remember talking to Tail for years, man, and he was always a horse guy. I mean, he raised his own too, right?
oh yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy. Like the majority of these horses that we have, uh, he bred their mamas and
Yeah.
foaled them out.
It's pretty wild. Well, you guys still have a bunch of mules that I had at the time, right? I mean,
Yeah, yeah. So dude, it's getting thin.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
eh, yeah, Evan's gonna go take some of those ones that you loved, Julie, Red, Pepper. Um, yeah, they're getting just getting too old.
Yeah, yeah. Julie's
A
that's a
Smoky.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Julie, I mean, Julie is one that, dude. That was a pretty badass mule, man. It's bad to it's or it's unfortunate. I mean, you know, everything comes to its end, but you know what I mean. Like she was one of my favorite for sure.
yeah. Red was mine. Like I just kind of
Yeah,
want to bring
yeah,
him up here as a like a buddy.
yeah, yeah. Sure. Does he still have that deal where he grows like crazy long hair?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, just kind of a goofy mule. I don't know what that is. If he had like some sort of thyroid issue or something like that, but he'd always get that long curly hair, you know.
yeah, yeah.
But
Dude,
no,
and I
he's
haven't. I've never seen that on another mule
yeah. Yeah, and
that
I
that
don't think
long.
it's yeah, and I don't think it's genetics, man. You know, well, you know my dad, he's a veterinarian, and he always told me it's a thyroid thing. Like some of them have a you know, an overactive thyroid or something like that. It's just like a hormonal thing, and you'll see that where they just get crazy hairy. It's
You know who says they have thyroid issues?
who's that?
Overweight women. Don't
Yeah.
blame everything on their thyroid.
Yeah, I guess that's the yeah, so mules blame their hair problems on it, fat chicks blame
Yeah,
their, fat on it, I guess, but
yeah,
it's kind of, yeah, it's something related to that, but no, he's a good one, man, Julie's a good one, all those ones, I mean, but those mules, dude, have seen so much outfitting, it's crazy. All I mean, they were all around before me, through you guys, like,
yeah.
all that stuff. Pretty wild it's pretty wild to think about how many elk hunts they've been around, and you gotta wonder, like, what the hell they're thinking, like, what they think, right? It's just like, do
Oh
they
yeah,
even do I wonder if they have I mean, they you know how it is, dude, with them, the way they act, like, they go to certain places you go to certain places with them or you're in certain terrain with them and the way they act, you know that they have a memory that extends more than a season. Like they know places and they know trails that they haven't been to. You know,
for
like
a long time.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
dude, I would go up on W with some of those horses, you know, and I didn't go up there that often when I was running it, but it might
yeah,
be like a whole year since I went up on W, and I would go back there with the horse and very clearly, like, you know how that trail gets kind of faint in some
yeah,
spots if you're kind of going off into the different basins, like they would very clearly know where that trail was, which is freaking crazy to me, man. It's
yeah. But and, like, dude, it's like you could be up there. Obviously, like the horses being able to see in the dark, clearly way better than we ever
sure.
could. But they haven't been up there for maybe 3 years. It's dark out, and they're you just they're just gonna go, and they're gonna put you right on, take you right back onto the trail
Oh yeah.
the whole
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, and it's amazing how accurate they are. Dude, I can count how many times I felt a horse get like I felt that I felt or I actually experienced a horse getting lost and not knowing where it is. Like I can count how often that happened in my lifetime on one hand. You know what I mean? Like it
Yeah,
doesn't happen that often that they're wrong. You know what I mean?
yeah. Cliff, I don't think I've ever really experienced that. I
Yeah, dude,
think
I
you.
had
I think you just have to take them into a spot that they've never been to.
Yeah, you know, I vividly remember it happening one time when I was a little kid with my dad, and it was kind of an odd thing, but I mean, and dude, honestly, that's the only time I can think about it. Maybe it's happened another time, but and I mean, dude, that's like freaking tens of thousands of hours probably riding. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That and a lot of it in the dark. Dude, I remember what it was, Jimmy, because I used to ride with my dad. I mean, I'm talking, I was small, dude, like maybe 8 or 9 years old. Guys, I've been using Onyx Maps for almost 2 decades now, hunting, guiding, outfitting. It is the gold standard tool when it comes to mapping software in the hunting world. They've been a huge supporter of my content for multiple years. So if you want to support me and you want to support them, use my code CliffG for 20% off at onxmaps.com. It is an awesome tool that I use all the time when I'm preparing for hunts, and I use it almost every single day in the field. For navigation, knowing unit boundaries, knowing private land boundaries, it is the tool you have to have. And that was a that was in a time that it was pretty normal not to have a headlamp. Yeah, I mean, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you went in the road, you might
Yeah.
have a flashlight in your saddlebag or something like that, but it wasn't like today where everybody's got a headlamp, backup batteries, a backup,
Yeah.
a backup headlamp, and then you also had your phone. Like, now you even have your phone, like, the lights
Yeah.
that are on your phone, right? It wasn't like that. It was just like you rode around and you might have a flashlight in your saddlebag, and you're always, like, close to the horses, but I remember riding back, and my dad had those permits over on the Holy Cross, and we were riding out of one of those lakes in the freaking pitch black, like no stars, no moon night. And we were riding along in the dark like we always did. And I just remember my dad, and my dad, like he's pretty chill, right? He's usually just like screwing with you and busting everybody's balls, and he's pretty relaxed. Like it takes a lot to kind of get him, I guess, like heightened. And I remember feeling it immediately, and I just hear him go, "Oh shit." And I was like my heart like sunk because it was not often that felt that vibe from my father. And the horses stopped, and he's like, I think we're lost. And somewhere along the way, dude, his horse in front had gotten off a trail, and we had no light, battery, one flashlight where we had didn't work. And we literally, dude, had to get down on the ground and like get just where you could see the faintness of the trail just with whatever little light you could get. We had to just basically like backtrack to the main trail like on our belly. um
Huh.
that's the only time I remember it happening, but that's the level of trust that most outfitters and guides have for their horses. Like, you don't even think about it, right? You just get on. I mean, you just get
Yeah.
on. I mean, untie your horses in the dark. You just get on and they're going back. You know what I mean? Like, they're I mean, you
Yeah.
might
Well, yeah.
like, they wanna go back to the ranch sometimes maybe, so you might have to steer them, make sure they know that you're going back to camp, but outside of that, like, you're not
Yeah. They're
worried
going to
about
one,
it.
one or two spot. They're going to the,
Yeah.
going back to the trailhead or going to the camp that you're keeping them at overnight.
Yeah, dude, it's really incredible, man, if you think about it, like, their ability to do that, you know? And it's probably a mix of memory and senses and all that shit, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you know, now that you say that, like, I wonder if you took some of these rental horses, right, that they're just like, I mean, they're just getting hored out from one outfit to the next to some public guy. If they have, if they have the, like, if they're better at, you know, maybe never getting lost, or like just they just totally forget about, because they're not doing the same stuff year after year,
Yeah.
you know?
I don't know. I know that well, the whole dynamic. I mean, me and you have experienced it together, so I know you understand this. But like, how horses, if you lose them in camp, and you have a base like ranch or like a base pack station, like we did for the most part, they're going back there, 100%. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
and the thing is it's like you could be 14 miles in or whatever, something crazy, and they they would be it's not like they're gonna get captured again if they ran 6 miles and then hung out a little bit, and then the next morning went to the ranch, right? Like,
yeah,
they could do that and get away with it, but generally, they won't do that. They might slow down a little bit, but generally, if they know where home is, like, they're going all the way home. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Um, but I've been in situations where I've gone on pack trips and hunting trips and stuff where I went to places where that wasn't the case. And in those cases, when you lose horses, a lot of times they'll just go somewhere that they find good feed. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
they'll run off from camp, and then you just like start look around, track them, and you'll glass them up in the first meadow that has grass, and then you just catch them.
yeah,
You know?
yeah. It's just got to be wherever they eat, you know. Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah, I
the
think I think there's a component of that, man, and I think they just have I think it's like that whole homing, like the whole homing mechanism that a lot of animals have, like ducks and stuff have. They
yeah,
just it just gets ingrained in their brain, and they use a bunch of stuff that us as humans, maybe we forgot, maybe we just don't inherently have, like that like just epic ability to navigate, off of a sense, right? Because
Right. Yeah.
they just know, dude. But the other thing that I've heard people speculate too, Jimmy, is they if one knows the way, and even if one gets like 300 yards in front of the other ones, these herd animals, dude, I think their scent is so incredible that they know, like they know that, oh yeah, my buddies, I can't see my buddies or hear my buddies anymore, but they went this way.
Yeah. No,
You know what I mean?
yeah, I think that's 100% accurate.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, you see mule deer do that, right? Or, anything will do that. But like bucks in the rut, you'll see does walk through a freaking, across a hillside. Bucks will walk, or excuse me, does will walk across a hillside. And then literally like 3 hours later, a buck will walk in their footsteps,
Yeah. Yeah.
like he's, even if
Yeah.
they're off trail. So it's just like a different dynamic. But anyways, man, enough of that bullshit. What give us the season,
Yeah.
give us the season recap, dude.
Yeah. Our early seasons were fantastic. Across the board at all outfits. Um, more more elk. Um, yes, saw a lot more elk. Um, saw more legal bulls. Granted, this is my first year at Rivers Bend, but Tell being here, Dano, who is guided for Tell's dad for 30 years, they all said that they saw more legal bulls this year than they have in 20 plus years. So, yeah, I mean, Evan was seeing the same thing over there at Flat Tops. Um, all those hunters, especially the early season over there, was good. Um, Towards the end, it started tailing off a little bit. I think it was probably just a pressure deal. Um, but yeah, but still, I mean, everybody was getting into elk, lots of opportunities. Um, so
It's interesting, man, because I heard that from you guys, and then I heard that across the state and other areas too. I mean, what's the word out there, or speculation on why?
so um our calf recruitment this year and I think in past years looked pretty darn good. One thing that I don't know if I'm a believer on it, but um, one thought is that our big winner the other year um, killed some of those big old bulls, uh, and the younger satellite bulls got in there and did a better job of breeding all of the cows instead of one bull breeding 60% of them. Uh, Again, I'm not a believer on that, but that's one thing.
Yeah, it's like we had
G-
one concept.
Cow, yeah, cow tags, which is to me, in my opinion, is the obvious, is the the tag allocations on these private land cow tag, like that are from September 1st to January 1st. Um, those tag allocations have gone way down over the past 5 6 years, and to me that if you give out 100 tags that had a 95% success rate on them, I mean you're just adding 95 cows to your unit every year, and over
Yeah,
5 years, I mean that's freaking huge, and
sure.
that's um, that winter kill was just a few years ago. I don't think we wouldn't have seen that age class of bulls yet from there, but.
Yeah. There's like
Um,
there's other things going on. I mean, tell me what you think about this, Jimmy, because I've thought about this some too, and dude, I mean, me and you have had so many conversations about this stuff over dinner and hunting camps and the lodge and stuff like that. So you know my opinion, but one thing I think about a lot is that this stuff is it's almost overcomplicated in a lot of the media and the discussions. And one thing that's surely the case about elk is they're pretty robust. You know what I mean? I
yeah,
mean, they freaking now, like, every year I seem to hunt them in like a different topography, a different area or whatever that's so much different than what I historically had hunted them in. And you realize that they can prosper like damn near anywhere. And, it could be, downtown Estes Park or the Flat Tops or, Eastern Oregon or, the coast of Oregon that's like completely different vegetation. So they're pretty amazing that way. But if you have the predator thing, I mean, the predator thing affects their productivity, the herd's productivity big time.
Yeah.
And then what the other thing you said is just like the cow harvest. The cow harvest of elk is so interesting culturally because it's a meat animal. Like a lot of people view it as a meat
Yeah.
animal, particularly
Yeah.
locals. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, and there's like it always lags, right? There's always this tendency they don't want to cut them. They don't want to cut the tags, but the thing is exactly what you said. Like it's so wild, right? I mean, you have cow tags that residents are paying. I don't know what is it. What does a cow tag cost now? $50 or something.
400.
No,
Oh,
for a
for a
resident.
resident? Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, dude, like 38 or something?
yeah. So you got, and I'm not knocking on residents killing cows. They just think it's an interesting dynamic. You've got cow elk tags being sold to residents for $50 or whatever, and like you say, they're 90% success, right? So you've
Yeah.
got that going on, and then in the exact same area, you have non-residents buying bull tags that have a 10% success rate or 15% success rate, and they're paying, was it like $800 now?
800.
Yeah,
Yeah.
$800 for a bull tag. So it's really kind of like it in my mind. It's like, wow, like it's such a weird dynamic. And like you say,
Dude,
like if you go ahead,
no, I mean, if you're born and raised out here, like that, you're just entitled to, like, I mean, I'm not trying to say that in a bad way, but like, I mean, that's what you do in December. You go out and you shoot a cow off of your haystack out there.
yeah,
And that, like, if somebody at the CPW were to say, like, you guys can't do that. We're dropping populations down, uh, and especially, I mean, it's money driven or whatever for non-residents. They increase the success of a non-resident bull hunt. We're gonna knock your private land cow tag quota down. It would be, yeah, no, absolutely not, over my
oh
dead
yeah,
body kind of thing, right?
yeah. Well, dude, and yeah, no, I totally, Jimmy. I mean, you nailed it. And the thing is I surely can't talk crap about it because I've been guilty of it. Like I mean not guilty of it, but it's been a part of my hunting my whole life, man. Like I've killed
Yeah,
I don't know what the exact numbers are, but I've killed probably 5-1 cows to bulls elk hunting. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
I've killed at least one cow up until the last few years when I've been doing other things in life. I mean, I killed at least one cow every year. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like
yeah.
that.
Dude, we're all um, I didn't get one, um, but my girlfriend's got a private land cow tag, and we're just waiting for him to cross the river up on the
Sure.
ranch one day,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, but it's amazing to me that it should be the first lever to pull, and it's
yeah,
usually not. It's like the
but
obvious first lever.
it's like the immediate, and I mean, obviously nothing's immediate, right? Because it takes a couple of years, till you see it, or at least, I mean, it takes one gestation period till you start seeing results. But that's about as instantaneous results as you can get
Right.
in a wild herd.
Guys, no excuses. All the stuff that I talk about on the podcast, all the stuff I talk about on YouTube, You can do it, and you can do it with me. There's a bunch of hunting, fishing, spearfishing experiences on my website. Go to pursuitwithcliff.com. Right on the top on the menu, click experiences. It'll walk you through all the different options. These are trips oriented around making you better. It's about the skill set, and it's about improving as an outdoorsman. So if that's you, that's what you want, go check them out and join me on the next one. Well, and I think that, so yeah, so I guess to complete this thought process of mine, and I'd love to hear your take on it too. I think you have that probably, Jimmy, going on, that like just reduction in all those, because I know they reduced a lot of them over there and all that stuff, like in 35 and all of that too.
Hmm.
Like they reduced those tags a bunch. So you've got all of that component. You've got essentially, you added on a new cow herd. Like you're talking hundreds of cows that didn't get killed, right?
Yeah.
And then, I mean, the fact is me, you, and the other guides for a long period of time, we shellacked the bears.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think it was like, it wasn't just us. Like it's almost, and maybe my brain is like screwed up on this, but that was a new thing when we started doing it.
Yeah. I mean, I think, I mean, I don't know. And I don't think bear hunting in Colorado was, I'm sure someone's going to call in or comment, whatever,
Yeah.
and be like, oh, I've bear hunted every year in Colorado. But dude, like the amount of people that you now run into in September that are just bear hunting is is exponentially higher than it was 10 years ago.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, I don't think anybody, I don't recall seeing just a bear hunter um,
No. Dude,
out there. No, they had bear tags while they were elk hunting, but yeah, we definitely killed the crap out of them. And I don't care what anybody says, black bears take a large toll on elk calves,
sure.
and uh, and I think that was, kind of, we shellacked a lot of bears at, at your old outfit at Flat Tops Wilderness Guides, and then over here, you know, none of the outfitters are bear hunting, but we we had a pretty big winter, and kind of the consensus is here that a lot of bears died in their dens from
Yeah,
that
it could
big
have
winter.
affected the population. Sure.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's why you see a big calf recruitment this year.
Yeah, and the dude, the bear dynamic in Colorado, I think you nailed it, dude. Like I talked to my dad about bear hunting in Colorado, and I mean, way back in the day, I mean, it's been a long time since there's been a spring bear season and a hound hunting season in Colorado. When those existed, there was some bear hunting going on in Colorado. But dude, in the 90s, in the 90s through the early 2000s, it wasn't a thing. Like, I mean, when I was a kid, like my dad never had, in all his years of outfitting there, dude, in that on the eagle side, they never shot a bear. They never even. I mean, the reality is they didn't even see bears. You
Yeah,
know, and the thing is, if you talk to the sheep guys too, the domestic sheep guys in Colorado, bears being a problem were there was basically a gap where there were no bears. I mean,
yeah,
or they were heavily
yeah,
suppressed. And
yeah,
magically, that coincides during the mule deer and elk heyday in Colorado.
yeah,
I mean, it could just be it could be correlation, not
yeah,
causation, but it's a pretty
yeah,
simple explanation, you know.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
No, yeah. Predators have a lot to do with it.
Yeah, with just the pure numbers, dude. Like think about if just the Bears, and a lot, like I mean, like we talked about, dude. I mean, when we started guiding bear hunts in the fall, nobody was guiding bear hunts. Like,
Yeah,
when we started to kill a few, and then they reduced the tag price, so there was more people hunting them too that were DIY guys and all that also, and then other guys are guiding them. But if you just think about the bears that we shot, Jimmy, I mean, what if they averaged? I mean, some of them probably killed calves, some of them didn't kill calves, but they had to average killing like 3 to 5 calves a piece every year.
Yeah, I mean, surely, right? I mean, we killed some dink bears that didn't have a chance probably
Yeah, yeah,
to kill
sure.
too many calves yet. But yeah, then you look at like that, you shoot, a 400-pound bear that's 12 years old. It's like, dang, how many calves did that sucker eat?
I mean, yeah, one of those bears alone, maybe if he was like like into it, and
A
that was like,
specialist. Yeah,
yeah, like like that was his deal. Who's to say he wasn't killing 30 calves a year?
yeah,
I
probably.
mean,
Yeah.
totally. When you start looking at some of the research, like, and it doesn't seem like there's very good bear research or black bear research exactly on elk calves, but there's a ton of good grizzly stuff on moose calves. Like
Yeah, and
research out there.
and yeah, now I wonder if it's just, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's like the state just doesn't want to know that information, because then they'd have to manage bears at a higher level if you publish all that stuff, or if they
Yeah.
just don't have the resources or whatever.
Yeah, dude. I think in general, I mean, this is totally my opinion. Not to say it's yours or anybody else's. And I'm free to say this because I'm not like in the business anymore, and I don't interact with the state guys or anything anymore. But I personally think, and it's not just Colorado, a lot of states within like the academic part of state biology, they don't want to take on the when it comes to game animals and predators. They don't want to take on that dynamic. They don't want to talk about it. They don't really want to talk about it. They don't want to really get in the weeds on it and publish things that say this or that, because they just don't want it to be a like a in the media subject matter. Because
Yeah,
what I think the concern is that they don't want to go down this path of like, well, we're hunting more bears because we want more elk, or we're hunting more lions because we want more mule deer, because that's not palatable to a lot of the population. You know what I mean?
yeah,
They like there's
yeah,
this they had like the not a lot of non-hunters, they find that kind of a distasteful idea,
yeah.
which is super weird.
Dude, dude, and like, I mean, I didn't work in it for a long time, but my background's in wildlife and fisheries. It would be pretty. It might not be the most accurate way, but like you could go out and just do some scat surveys of bears and just
Sure.
send them back, find what they're eating, and I think you could it'd be you do it for a month a year, beginning of May to end of June, or I'm sorry,
Right.
the end of May to the end of June, and see what's in their scat.
Yeah, just see if they're
Be real
all
simple.
eating. Yeah, if they're all
Yeah,
eating calves or whatever. Yeah, or just observe them. Just sit
yeah,
on big calving areas and just watch how many bears are in there. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Um, so yeah, I don't think it's that hard to say. I just think there's a bias there that's probably related to almost like I don't know, like just politics. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so, but I think it's obviously important factor, man. But yeah, how was the deer hunting?
So, um, the deer hunting at Rivers Bend is a little different than the deer hunting at Flat Tops, without a
Sure.
doubt. Um, our early season deer hunting, I think, um is probably a titch better.
Yeah.
That high country mule deer hunt. Um, yeah, it's good. The Flat Tops Wilderness Guides late season hunting is not no, I'm not saying that Rivers Bend deer hunting is bad, but it's not the same as Flat Tops. Flat
Yeah.
Tops Wilderness Guides deer hunting is just where the deer are traveling through during late October,
Yeah.
November.
Yeah. I mean, there's all those different dynamics, like in the different areas and that sort of thing too. Do you think I more of like a curiosity thing for you, Jimmy? Do you think that's partly that we figured out how to kill them over there, or do you just feel that on the side that now you're hunting a lot, that that it's just a different population dynamic. Like they're just not there in those later seasons.
Yeah, I don't think they're there
Yeah, just a
in the
different.
later
Yeah,
seasons. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Which is
And I think,
weird.
yeah, I mean,
Go ahead.
go ahead. Yeah, no, I think it's just, with the, for anyone who's listening, like the flat tops being this big, giant maze of plateaus, that's a huge landscape, and then that's that's at 11,000 feet, and then as it snows and starts getting cold and getting later into the season, they start migrating, and I think the deer um, migrate through the Flat Tops Wilderness Guides core
Yeah,
hunt
yeah.
area, and then on Rivers Bend Outfitters just doesn't have that migration route. Now, not that all the deer in the flat tops are traveling through that country at Flat Tops Wilderness Guides, but I don't think they're traveling through the country at Rivers Bend Outfitters
Dude,
that we outfit.
yeah. I think you're probably right, man. And what's weird is that you see it on the other side of the highway too, in the like the crazy hard units to draw,
Yeah,
like 44 and stuff. There's this is something that's very hard for me to explain to people, Jimmy, because if you looked at, you know, the two different sides of the flat tops we're talking about, or if you went over and looked at 44 and the surrounding units or whatever, if you were like scouting them and you're like, hey, I look at, this type of exposure and this elevation to this elevation and this elevation grade, dude, even for guys that have done this shit for 15 years, it's kind of indistinguishable. Like there's going to be
yeah,
spots that look similar on mapping and like I'd love to hear if you feel like the vegetation is different because I think that's a different subject matter. Um, but just from like looking at it, scouting, I can't. I mean, I did this for
yeah.
such a huge portion of my life. I cannot tell the difference.
Yeah, and you know, I'd like to be able to talk to. I mean, obviously, Mark worked at Winterhawk and stuff, but talk to
Mhm.
some of those guys that were at Winterhawk for 10, 15 years, like Bob or
Yeah.
Larry, whatever. Some of that country over there, it looks the exact same. Like, I mean, you know where we're talking about when we're shooting
Yeah.
all these deer at Flat Tops Wilderness Guides. It looks the exact same, and we're talking about maybe 5 miles the way the crow flies different. And you talk to Mark, who had a couple years at Winterhawk. He's like, no, yeah, no, that wasn't. We didn't shoot deer there.
Yeah.
That's not. That's how that is exactly what we shoot them um, on the other side.
Yeah.
But
Dude, in
yeah,
in in the same deal with elk too, right? I don't know. You get this ability to screen like areas that they kind of like. I feel like I can look at, I can sit there on, sit on my horse and look at country and be like, okay, this is pretty good potential to have
hmm,
to have some spots where bulls go after the rut, right? I'm looking at it like
yeah,
it has what they need. But it's just a gross it's just a gross like ability to screen the big picture aspect of it because I can also look at country that looks I can look at some country and be like, "Oh, this looks like good bull elk country," and then another chunk and one of those chunks there will never be bulls in. And the other chunk there will be bulls in. You know what I mean? And I can't figure out what those variables are and it's hard to figure that out, man.
yeah. I don't, Cliff. I don't think there's not secret sauce to it. I think it's just like that is that's where they go, and they use that all the time. And it doesn't matter. Like, I mean, obviously, if you run them out of there, you run them out of there for that day or that week or
Right.
whatever. But they're coming back there.
Yeah.
Just like we shoot 90% of the elk are in spots that we've killed elk before.
Oh, yeah.
If if
Yeah.
if 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 that if shooting an elk there ran them out, we wouldn't that wouldn't be the case. We'd be shooting them all over the place. But there's something about that spot
Yeah.
keeps them coming back.
I do one of the things I speculate on it, what it is, and it doesn't help anybody that's trying to e-scouting. I guess that's one of my points, Jimmy, is people get so stuck on this shit. Like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm gonna e-scout my balls off because if I get really good at it, I'm gonna be able to, be better than Jimmy, be better than Cliff, be better than every other hunter at segmenting down to where the deer are gonna move through, where the post-rut bulls are gonna go. And I don't think you can do it. I think they're unobservable thing. I think from a human's perspective, some of the variables that push elk or push deer into those spots, they're unobservable to humans. The only way you get that information is by hunting them in those areas,
Yeah.
you
Yep.
know. And I wonder if it might be. I was talking to some guys that hunt wolves a bunch, and that were, you know, they were, government guys hunting wolves, and one of them was telling me that he thinks what it is it's that when those wolves, deer, elk, or whatever, when they move through topography, they just, whenever they walk down a ridge, when they're migrating, when they come to like a point where they choose to like go down this saddle or keep walking the ridge, they all choose the same thing for whatever variable is there, like the vegetation, the
Oh,
topography,
yeah.
all that. They all are
Yeah.
going to choose, even if it's the first time they were there, they're always going to choose this path over this path. But it's
Yeah.
things that we can't observe as humans,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Huh.
and I think that kind of made sense to me that just animals move through topography certain ways, and we can't figure that out unless we have like local knowledge.
Yeah.
But
But and, yeah, I mean, and I don't want to spend too much time on this one, but like the flat tops have our elk and deer are not all going to like one direction. We
right,
have elk in the flat tops. Like I think if they wind up on the north side of the South Fork, they're going one way. If they wind up on the south side of the South Fork, they're going another way. And
right,
that might be a totally different, it's not, but totally different topographical feature or whatever the case is. But like, they're not all the flat tops deer and elk are going one way. And I think that one of the routes or whatever is through the Flat Tops Wilderness Guides core
yeah,
area.
dude. I agree with you, Jimmy. I think deer, and I've talked to biologists about this. I think mule deer are pretty sticky to their paths. Like they
Yeah.
want to go back the same path. Dude, elk. I think the tiniest. It's like that concept. I think there was a movie, the butterfly effect. Are you familiar with this? You know what the
Yeah,
butterfly
yeah,
effect
I
is?
remember that. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've
so the
never seen it.
idea the idea is that a butterfly or whatever lands on water and creates a ripple, or dust and creates a ripple, and then that changes the world like through these multi-step process,
Uh-huh.
like things that come off of that, the wake of that little tiny thing. Dude, I think elk are the same way, man. I think individual like where five guys put their wall tent one year at a certain time might bump a whole group of elk from one basin into the other basin. And instead of those elk, and it could be 100 elk, instead of them coming down this drainage, they go down the other drainage.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and how are you gonna know?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have on both sides there's some cow herds that are very, like they live here, they migrate there, um, and then all these other elk, they just they just bebop around one year to,
Right.
for whatever reason they're there, and then next year they're over here, and then they find a that resident herd that does the same thing every year, and they join them for the
Yeah.
winter, and then they go back up and they go do their own thing again. And I bet that is the majority of the elk population does that.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
and then and then they just find 10% that are, resident elk that do the same thing every year.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I agree, dude. I'm sure that is the case. But the reason I like talking about it, man, is because it just means that it's kind of a cool dynamic of that type of hunting. It means that you have to go in there and figure it out. You can't,
Yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah,
unless somebody tells you information about a spot or whatever, those things are very valuable. But outside of that, you can't, this shit's not a video game. You know what I mean?
yeah.
You can't just e-scout it to oblivion and then pop into right where the elk are going to be during that period of time or whatever. Um, what, oh, dude, yes, I guess, yeah, that kind of covers the season. We've been at it for 45 minutes, man. Um, but I think that's
But
all
I'll
good.
let me just like I think one thing that was also very unique to, and I won't go through every archery season through fourth rifle or anything, but one thing that I saw that was unique this year was the amount of bugling activity, the rut activity during first rifle. It was it was more than I've ever seen, and I think that was it was weird because it was so hot too.
Yeah.
One of my hunters took a picture of me like sitting in the shade with my shirt off during first rifle, just trying to
Do you have thoughts
stay
of why
cool.
that is?
Yeah, who knows? I mean, it was warm all archery season, all the way through first rifle. We didn't get a snow until after first rifle.
Right.
Um, not even a skiff of it anywhere on the mountain, not even at 11,000 feet. So, um, did that warm September were those bulls just not rutting as hard? I find that hard to believe that the temperature would that they're not going to breed a cow because they're hot. I don't think that's the case, but I don't know what else it would have been different.
Yeah, dude. I uh I don't know either, other than to say that I think elk density when it comes to vocalizations is way, way underestimated.
Yeah,
Like, as as
yeah,
as
yeah.
as the most important I think it's the most important factor by a
Tenfold.
huge, yeah,
Yeah,
a huge and again, as elk hunters, we get stuck on such minutia, right? Like, everybody wants to talk to me about the moon phase, how hot it was or how cold it was, all these different things when it comes to, and the other favorite one is that elk in your country just don't bugle, right? Like,
yeah,
they're not going to bugle, and they're not going to bugle in 25, 26, 12, 34, 35, or whatever, because they get the shit hunted out of them, and all the elk that bugle got killed 10 years ago. Well, then
yeah. That's not
how can you have a
true.
year where all of a sudden everybody's hearing bugles?
Yeah, it's just it's for sure the what why would a bull that's been by himself that has a handful of cows and hasn't seen another bull elk, why would he just be walking around bugling?
Yeah, yeah, dude.
I don't
Yeah.
think he would.
No, and
uh,
in
but
the other, I mean, go ahead.
yeah, no, but if there's he's if he's got his cows and his um there's a bunch of elk around, he's gonna just bugle and he wants to, I mean, they probably going like, I don't know if elk think like this, but why would a 3-year-old bull in the flat tops, that's a 250-inch 5x5, why would he walk around bugling at everyone and at another elk, advertising that he's got 10
Yeah,
cows with him and risk getting his butt kicked and ending up with no cows? I don't
right.
think he would.
No, unless he had to. Unless
Yeah.
he's just got bulls all around him that are trying to steal his cows and
Yeah.
fuck with him and all of that. Then he just, like, he has to exert that effort. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? And I think
Yeah.
I I I think that's for sure what a lot of this has to do with, and people really underestimate it, because it's funny, man. You'll go to other places that have really high density of elk, and those guys will be routinely calling in, or calling will be a big part of their hunting strategy through October 20th.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, when I was guiding in the country that you guys are hunting, I mean, I, maybe I'd hear a bugle or two October 10th, but it was like random. It wasn't
Yeah.
a it
Yeah.
wasn't a part of the
Yeah. Yeah. And
the
I mean, I'd say that's, like every year, did we shoot a bull that um, was still semi-running, right? Like let out a bugle randomly and you're like, oh shit, there's a bull
you
down
go
there. Let's
find
go
them.
kill
Yeah,
him. And you find him and kill him.
yeah,
Or you're sitting down and you give a few cow calls and, oh, whoa, you stood a bull up that you wouldn't have killed if you didn't cow call. This
right,
year, during first rifle season, we hunted elk like we were the third week of September.
sure,
Kept a bugle tube on you at all times, screaming at them. Like,
yeah,
and not just location bugle, like communicating with them,
yeah,
trying to
yeah.
trying to tick them off.
Dude, it could just be that I mean, it could all come back to what we originally started talking about, Jimmy, is that maybe, I mean, here's the other reality is most of the bulls you guys are hunting are from 2.5 to 4.5. Would you
Yeah,
agree with that? Like
yeah, yeah,
there's enough hunting pressure. That's like 90% of the
yeah,
bulls probably or something like that. So it only takes like if some elements occur, in terms of the population dynamic, you could double the amount of bulls in that category, that age class in a couple years, you
yeah,
know.
for sure. Yeah,
And so maybe that's what's there's which is awesome. Maybe there's just, that occurred. And then that trickles through all these other dynamics
yeah,
that
yeah.
you
Like
see.
you have some poor conditions during second and third or whatever for a couple years in a row, and then boom,
Yeah.
you've got a lot. You got a lot more bulls
Yeah.
of older age class. So
And then they get a bunch of them get killed, and then things change a little bit.
yeah, yeah,
It's one thing about, I think, young populations of elk is that population dynamic is it's going to change more rapidly. Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
if you're hunting elk where really the bulls you're trying to kill are 7.5 years old, well, it takes a lot of time for that population dynamic to change.
yeah, yeah,
But in your country, that's different because the bulls are young. Dude, what I think is interesting about the flat tops, Jimmy, and I didn't realize this for all the years I hunted it, is the genetics for elk are actually pretty damn good.
yeah, yep,
You know,
100%.
because we hunted them. There's always this. I think there's this tendency, at least for me, there's this tendency to be like, oh, this population's hunted so hard. It, there's just, big, you don't see the big bulls because the age class is lower, but that tends in my mind to be like, oh, they're just not big elk here. It's like, well, now, you look at some of the bulls that you guys kill that, like, most your 6x6s are 300-inch bulls,
Yeah,
or around that, like but
yeah,
a lot of places, most 6x6s will never be, a lot of bulls will never be 300 inches,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know. I don't know. It's kind of an interesting
No, no,
deal.
there's for sure a genetic component in the flat tops that if I don't want the state to manage it any differently than I do, but
Yeah, yeah, you're just
not
speculate.
not
Yeah,
crazy.
but
I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
want the flat tops to become a 30 or a 25 point unit. But if it was, I think you would see ginormo bulls coming out.
Well, dude,
I mean,
400-inch bulls have been killed in the flat tops.
yeah, yeah.
No, I mean, not that I know of in recent history, but historically, lots of them have.
Dude, there's I don't know, in the like 2014 time frame. I'll have to find it. There's a 400-inch bull killed in the flat tops. I was on the it was like an article in Beagle magazine,
What time? When? What years?
like I think 2014.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, it's
Uh,
so the genetics are there,
yeah,
you know. I think
yeah.
I think that, the unfortunate thing about elk, Jimmy, is I think unlike mule deer, they even if you have a population that has really good genetics, if it's hunted hard, you're not going to see outliers because elk they're they they're getting so much hunting pressure, but the way they migrate and then the way that they'll expose themselves in the snow in the late season and that sort of stuff, they're just susceptible. Like, I mean, imagine if a big 400-inch bull showed up on the Colorado River or showed up down on a ranch in Meeker. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
he's gonna pop up and he's gonna get killed. He's gonna get whacked. You know what I mean? In big, big 300-inch bulls are the same way. And bulls that are 350, 360 or whatever, they can't get through. Whereas big mule deer, man, you can have units that get the shit hunted out of them. And a big mule deer, just the way that they can disperse, where they end up going to some little nook where they winter, or even their pattern getting down there, they just avoid hunting pressure.
Yeah, uh, and I mean, I 100% agree with that, Cliff. Um, but and because I have a lot of experience with like watching deer grow old in whitetail populations. I think deer have the ability to to make these huge leaps in one year to the next,
Oh,
one
size.
antler growing
Okay. Yeah,
season
that
to
would
the
make
next.
sense.
Like that, like,
Mhm.
oh yeah, like that's a nice, like if you saw a 180-inch deer in Burns, you might you talk to your neighbor, be like, oh yeah, you see that big buck down there?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it wouldn't like nobody really cares that much. Like that's a nice deer, but like
Yeah.
nothing unheard of. I think that deer has the potential to go from 180 inches and put on 50 inches in a year.
Just be like a freak the next year. Where
Yep.
where's
Yeah,
okay,
and it
okay.
could
Yeah,
be
that would
it
make
could be
sense.
like
That'd be a good
weather or
explanation.
whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, like maybe it was a wet summer and good growing conditions or whatever. But I don't think elk have the ability to like put on that many. I mean, an elk can put on
In
50
one
inches
in
in a
yeah,
year,
in 1
but
year.
but but like but 50 inches, you know, on could be like a 30% growth increase in a deer. 30% on a
Yeah.
on a elk is just not as big of a difference.
Yeah, dude, that's probably a better explanation of why you see that. But yeah, that makes sense, Jimmy. But the dynamic I like
Yeah,
that
yeah,
that
yeah,
you're talking like hundreds of bulls getting killed in the flat tops, and there's genetics there for 400-inch bulls
yeah,
guaranteed, and none of them are 400-inch bulls.
yeah. But
You know,
this fourth rifle season, Evan saw a
there's some big
legitimate
bulls, yeah.
350. This summer I saw a legitimate. I put over 350. I mean, it's also
Yeah,
relative.
and I have sheds from bulls in the flat
Yeah,
tops that are north
yeah,
of 350. Yeah, no, for sure. And they can pop up. They can pop up places. There's no doubt about that. But it's an interesting, which is kind of incredible for how much hunting they get.
yeah, yeah.
You know?
Like that is one smart or one lucky son of a gun.
Oh yeah, dude. It really is. It's kind of nuts. But man, what do you think? Well, I haven't stayed up to date on it, Jimmy. The new 5-year season structure. Do you got any thoughts on that? Is there anything people should consider? And I guess
Yeah,
within that, man, do you have any big thoughts on what's going to happen with the draw here? In particular, the component of uh, all these uh, all these over-the-counter archery units are going to go draw for non-residents on the archery front?
Yeah. So first on the season structure, and then we'll the non-resident over-the-counter archery is a longer conversation, but the the state is going to implement a first rifle season deer tag or deer hunt. So that'll be GMU by GMU. Um, if they're going to put in deer tags, I would imagine just based on the state's drive to wipe out the mule deer population, the majority of your units a are going to have tag allocations during the first rifle season. That's concurrent with the elk first rifle
Oh,
season. So that's
so
something.
so it's not going to be. You think it's not going to be the anomaly that there's an added first season? You think most places they'll be added first season?
Yeah, it's my guess. I mean, just
Yeah.
based on they're wiping out our
Yeah. Or
the
I mean, they just put big quote. I
yeah.
mean, well, like the second season quotas are huge anyway. So why would
Yeah,
they not? Why would they
and
not?
it'll be interesting to see what they, and again, I don't know, but my guess is that they are going to, instead of saying they give out 2,000 tags, 2,000 mule deer tags between archery, muzzleloader, second rifle, third rifle, fourth rifle, that they're going to just take a little bit out of each of those seasons or percentage and give it to first rifle. My guess is that they're just going to be like, oh, okay, now if we gave out 400 tags during archery, muzzleloader, or second, third, and fourth, we're going to add those. We're going to give an additional 400 tags for first rifle to now a grand total of 2,400 tags across all the seasons versus 2,000. If that makes sense.
Yeah. You think that it's not going to be a net zero deal. They're going to add They're going
Yeah,
to add quota.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
It would be my guess.
yeah, I mean, I would guess, having no inside information at all on it, I would guess that it's probably gonna be like a little bit of a mix, right? Like they may reduce, like, let's say that third season is 200 buck tags. They might take 20 of those tags out and make it 180 and then add 50 first rifle tags. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
like they reduce a little bit and then um, add some more during first rifle. So there's a net gain,
yeah.
there's a net
But and
increase.
I'd be like if there's a listener out there that just thinks like, oh, they didn't know this, and now they were kind of up in the air between hunting first rifle and second rifle, and they were leaning towards second because they could get a deer tag, and now that you could possibly get a deer tag during first rifle and an elk tag, well, we're gonna go do first rifle. A first rifle deer tag and a third rifle deer tag, or even second rifle, is not the same hunt. Absolutely not even close. I think the success rate on a first rifle deer hunt is going to be abysmal.
Yeah. They used to straight vanish. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah. I
like,
mean, there's going to be deer killed, but I think a lot of young ones are going to be shot because guys are just going to be they see a spike with a group of does and didn't
yeah.
have any luck and shoot that sucker.
Yeah, dude, and I'm thinking out loud on it, Jimmy, but what would be great to see in my mind is reduced third and fourth season quotas and then increased first rifle, because I think that probably, like, in the long term, that would actually increase your age class, and I think it would increase, like, the buck quality. I mean, a lot of your big bucks are getting killed third and fourth rifle, right?
Yeah.
So if they I'm not saying that they're going to do this, and they're almost certainly not, but I don't necessarily think it'd be a bad thing is if they reduced the late season quotas and then put those tags into first rifle for the dynamic you're talking about.
Hmm.
Most of the big bucks are not going to get killed during first rifle. I
Yeah.
mean,
No,
that given the
it's not
dates, it's
gonna.
so hard to find them. To me, those tags are really, you either got like the opportunistic thing where you're an elk hunter and now you usually hunt first rifle. Now, okay, I can have a deer tag and I can shoot a deer if I see one. Great, whatever, another opportunity. And then It's another opportunity for the state to raise revenue, which I'm sure they're a fan of that. And they're raising revenue on, like you say, a low success hunt. I mean, I totally agree with you on that. Like, it's going to be a low success rate hunt. Again, my personal thought is that, and I don't think it's malicious. I think they're just running a system that they have to run. I think that the state tends to like low success rate hunts because they can
Yeah,
sell a lot of tags for minimal impact. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Um,
yeah, for sure.
so there's that dynamic. I do think if you want to be a dedicated mule deer hunter and you want to hunt places that potentially have like ripping genetics, it might be a cool time to do it. It's just going to be really hard,
Yeah, yeah,
you know?
yeah, yeah. I mean, that would be a. I guess you if you could go hunt a Unit 44 with 3 points during
Yeah, I just don't know
during
how. Yeah, I don't
first
know.
rifle, there someone's going to end up shooting a 200-inch deer.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah. And but I think it's like one of those things that you're gonna have to be dedicated to it. You're not. I mean, well, shit happens and people get lucky or whatever. But there's not gonna be a bunch of elk hunters, like elk focused guys that are killing big deer during first rifle.
No,
You know?
absolutely not. I mean, and I don't want to go down a rabbit hole on this one either, Cliff. But like the CPW's strategy of deer management is let's get rid of these older age class
Yeah.
bucks. So we're gonna let's just put an antler restriction on it, right? Make it um a 4x4. Don't if you could start letting some of these little ones get through the cracks, if they can get through the cracks for the first 2.5 years of their life, and now all of a sudden they're slightly smarter, then um, yeah, keep your tag allocations high, but don't don't allow you to shoot the first antlered deer you see.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, I mean those like I talked to Mike Duplan on here about a month ago, and Mike's real
mhm.
negative on. I think I pronounced his last name wrong. Duplan. You know Mike. Do you know Mike? Do you
Huh?
know him?
Yeah,
Um,
I've met him a few times.
yeah, he's real negative on the mule deer in Colorado, and he's got the data set. The guy's been hunting big mule deer there for a very long time. So I don't disagree with him on that front at all. And like you say, it's not a surprise given that the CPW is pretty overt about reducing the age class of mule deer. So that's all makes sense. It's probably not really speculation. Like that's just the case. That's what's going to happen. I think the bigger question, man, is that I I don't know that the CPW understands that that's why people hunt mule deer in Colorado is to kill big ones.
Yeah,
Like that's the brand, right? Like I mean that's why I hunted. I mean, that was a big part of our business, dude, when I was there is like, hey,
yeah,
I mean,
big mule deer.
yeah, it's not.
Opportunity to hunt raghorn elk every year, but like possibly shooting a giant.
Yeah, and I mean, you never knew, right? Like, and that's anywhere in Colorado. It has nothing to do really with your units. There's a lot of places in Colorado where you could go and 99 out of 100 bucks you found were just going to be your average buck, and then one day you're going to come around a corner or you're going to be sitting glassing and just a freak of nature is going to stand up, you know?
Yeah,
And that's like
yeah,
that's the dream. That's the dream that the Eastmans and all of those guys when I was a little kid. That's their whole business was built on that, right? All their VHS tapes and everything else. Not in Colorado, but part some, and then but in Wyoming and everything else. But even that, you saw once that brand goes away, all of a sudden people, I think there's all people are no longer going to think about Colorado as this big mule deer state, and it's going to change the dynamic of deer hunting there.
yeah. And I don't. I like to. I would rather see big trophy mule deer and be able to and have less time to hunt them than be able to hunt a forky every year. And I don't know where most people lie on that.
No, that I mean,
Like you like I don't think I think with there's a big push of um later in life, onset hunters. I don't know if they care
oh,
um about
about
shooting
shooting it.
about like yeah, yeah, to them it's more about the experience and the meat aspect than it would be shooting a big one. I don't know.
Yeah,
And,
no, no,
not
yeah,
that not that one's better or worse than the other.
no, I
To each
think
their own. But
no, no, I think you're right, Jimmy, but I think that's for sure the dynamic. You've got more guys that are hunting mule deer that just want to shoot a mule deer, you know? I guess one of my thoughts on that is again, dude, like if people can do whatever they do and or whatever they want to do, and I don't want to like cast judgment on people, but my personal thought to people, or what I would tell people if they said that to me, like, oh, I just want to shoot a deer. My thought would be go shoot a whitetail that's more robust. I mean, they're more robust to that. If you want to go
yeah,
shoot a meat buck, go shoot a meat buck somewhere. Like, why are you like?
yeah,
And dude, this is obviously going to come out as like crazy bias because to me, mule deer hunting is about hunting big mule deer.
yeah.
I don't,
It's a trophy hunt.
yeah, I don't have any interest in shooting a little deer. And honestly, I don't think most people that hunt mule deer, I, I mean, I don't know. If you've never shot one, like go mule deer hunting and go struggle up in the mountains. And when you see one that you're happy with within whatever context it is, and if it's a fork and horn, whatever. Like I'm not. That's all good. I'm happy for people. If people send me, you know, a mule deer buck they shoot that's small or whatever. I'm happy. I am truly happy for them, and I'm not like shitting on that. But it shouldn't be like. I guess in my mind, you shouldn't do that every year. You shouldn't go 10 years shooting fork and horn mule deer bucks. It doesn't make a lot of
Yeah,
sense.
yeah. To say
Whitetail
that you just
taste
want to fill the
way
freezer.
yeah,
Yeah,
whitetail tastes way better. They're easier to get the tags for, and in general, there's way less cost and logistics involved.
yeah,
So
yeah.
so I just don't it's almost like irrational. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree
people are
with
gonna
you.
bust my balls for that one.
It's funny. Like in Colorado, no one's gonna say crap to you if you shoot a raghorn bull.
Right.
But if you start shooting forkies every year, it's like, dude, what are you doing?
Well,
Why? So,
well, why do you think that is?
because yeah, I don't know. I have no idea.
Dude, I mean,
You have a thought?
I think it's partly the culture. I think there's a lot of big buck hunters in Colorado for good reason, because it's been the
Yeah,
place.
yeah,
It's been the place. Um, I think another part of that, man, is that mule deer doesn't taste that good.
that's true.
It you know what I mean? Where elk tastes pretty
Yeah,
good. I mean, I'm not I'll eat mule deer all day. I've eaten a ton of it. I've eaten every single one I've killed, right? But
yeah,
I'd rather in general, man, like I've killed a few whitetail here in Oregon in the last few years. I'd way rather eat those.
yeah.
So I think
I
there's
agree
a
with you.
I mean, I think there's that dynamic is that everybody's biased and they're looking, they're looking out for themselves. So part of that is that if a guy's into hunting big mule deer, he might crap on somebody that's shooting little mule deer because he's like, well, like, why don't you go shoot a whitetail if you want just the meat? You know what I mean? So there's
Yeah,
like this, it's like biased, and and I say I'm not casting judgment, but I am by just like expressing my opinion. But it just is what it is, dude. And I guess the best way I would say it, Jimmy, is that individual by individual, I don't care, and they're following the rules. I guess I wish that selfishly the state looked at it that way. I wish they looked at mule deer as a species that had much more value if it had an older age class structure.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's probably my gripe,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know.
No, I sneeze. No, I agree with that. I don't want to see every unit become a 25-point unit, but
Right.
the and I think it's pretty cool when you can go to some of these units and get a tag every year, and over the course of 10 years, you might have you very well might shoot a 200-inch deer. I think
Yeah.
that's pretty awesome. But being able to get these tags as second choice, um,
Right.
yeah, no problem. On the leftover list, it is kind of
Yeah, it's too much
crazy.
it's too much pressure on the resource if you
Yeah,
want to maintain the opportunity to kill big ones. The dude, the thing about mule deer hunting, man, is up until recently, I think the culture of it's changed also, Jimmy, because and this may be why I'm willing to openly discuss it in this regard. The cool thing about hunting big ass mule deer is that in Colorado anybody could do it. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
Like it used to be the case that I mean it's still the case to some extent. Things have changed a little bit, but it used to be the case it was pretty darn hard to buy mule deer hunting opportunities that were up to what a guy that just hunted the mountains really hard could achieve. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Like if you wanted to spend 200 grand mule deer hunting when I was a kid, it didn't matter. It did. There was no opportunity. You could not spend that kind of money if you wanted to. There
yeah,
was no place. There was no place to go buy a giant mule deer, and so I grew up in the world where mule deer signified an animal that if you were killing older age class ones, it was like it was for better or worse. It was kind of a unique achievement. You know what I mean? But and I think, but that's changed a little bit. But I think that's probably why there's a little bit of a culture around hunting big ones. I guess you
yeah.
know.
No, I like hunting. I like the idea of hunting big mule deer.
Yeah, for sure, dude. What about on the archery draw, man? Do you have thoughts on how that's going to turn
Yeah,
out?
yeah, and I don't. I mean, it, it's so much speculation, but in my thought process, I would say that we're going to see a decrease in like the unit 201 um units as to how many points they're going to take, because guys are hoping that they're going to they're double dipping, right? They're building a point and they're hunting over the counter.
Yeah,
Now they're not going to be able to do that potentially, right? And after the first couple of years, once there's some data out there, surely there's going to be units where guys can draw the tag second choice, and they'll continue to do that. But it's not going to be. I don't think it's going to be all of them. So I think you're going to see a
and right
decrease.
now you don't know,
We don't
right?
know. We don't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
because we don't
if you're
know.
a non-resident and you want to go elk hunting, putting in as a second choice and
Is
getting preference points is risky.
yeah, it's real
Yeah.
risky. My guess is that, and if you look at where they've over the past several years, they've been taking a handful of units each year that were over the counter, moving them to a draw. A lot of those, you're still able to get those tags second choice. So you could double dip and get your point and still go hunting. So I think in overall there's going to be some units that you're going to be able to do that. I think there's some that you're not going to be able to do that. Eventually we're going to see a unit 201 whatever taking less points, just because guys are
And just
going
so
to.
everybody knows, those are like the hardest points, the hardest units to draw is what you're
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
about.
we're
Yeah.
talking 25 points for a non-resident to draw an archery tag.
Yeah.
And then I think you're going to see guys that go hunting every year, and they've been hoping to hunt one of those units, and they still want to go hunting. So they're going to say, I'm going to use my points on one of these mid-tier units that still take, 15 points, 10 to 15 points to draw. They're going to, but they already have 20 points. So they're going to burn their 20 points on a 15-point unit. We're going to see an increase because of that. We'll see an increase of the how many points a mid-tier unit takes. So yeah, that's kind of my thought on what's going to happen to the units. The 1 to the 1 to 5 point units. I don't know, and I think those are going to be. I think some of them we're going to see huge fluctuations. Others we're not going to see hardly any.
Do you know, Jimmy, or have you heard? So you know how first rifle, a lot of the units or a lot of the tags are groups of units, the draw tags.
Uh-huh.
You draw first rifle tag, you can hunt this set of units on that draw tag for bull elk that first rifle season. During these over the counter archer units that are now going to be draw for non-residents, are they going to be only unit level, or are they going to be doing groups of units?
I don't know. My suspicion would be they're going to be unit clusters.
Yeah, which
And I'm just throwing that out there just because that's what unit 25 and 26. They're always lumped together, right? From
yeah,
whether it's in first rifle and there's 10 other units lumped in, whether it's your mule deer tag, they're lumped in. Your fourth season elk tags, they're lumped in as well.
yeah. No, I mean that makes sense. Um, I think it's kind of interesting that they do that. You know what I mean? Because it kind of suggests that, or it makes it so they really don't know how many people are hunting specific units.
Yeah, yeah, uh,
So that
yeah. And I don't. Yeah, I mean, why if that's the case, why not just get rid of two units, 25, 26, and just make one mega unit called 25 or whatever
Yeah,
it is.
yeah. Like, why even have what? Yeah, no,
Yeah,
yeah, I get what you're saying. Um, no, it's interesting. I guess it'll be interesting seeing how all that plays out. The reality is, it's just kind of unknown. And I think the overall dynamic you're talking about though is relevant. You've got people who've archery hunted Colorado, or they've used archery as like their backup, or excuse me, Colorado's their backup archery spot for decades. And I assume a lot of them are thinking to themselves, okay, I I still want to hunt Colorado every year, but if I don't burn my points now, I'm going to have to burn my points that I've been accumulating while I've been hunting. If I don't burn them now, I'm going to have to change my overall strategy with Colorado. So you have
yeah.
you're going to have some weird effects.
Okay, Cliff, because I knew we were gonna get into this, so I did a little research
Sure.
this morning. So in Colorado, and we're just talking about the elk, right? In the elk draw itself, guys that are either building a point or putting in for a unit, there's 245,489 people in the draw last year.
Okay.
Okay, um, and that's including residents and non-residents. There is 5,105 non-residents that hold 3 or more points. So those guys that are, and I broke it down even further. So there were there were 20,744 guys that had 0 points, right? There was less than half of that with 1 point at 9,453. So those guys, the guys that have 1 point, and that just goes to show you that basically 10,000 hunters are double dipping. each year,
Yeah.
right? You're going to see that drop significantly. There was 3,362 hunters with 2 points. That drops again in half, basically, when you go up to 3 points with 1,651 hunters. So these guys that are double dipping, trying to hunt, better units.
Sure.
I don't think that's just not gonna pan out for them.
Right. Yeah, because they're hunting. I mean, there's a lot of guys too that they're not waiting for the big units. They're just hunting, every I don't know what like a unit
Yeah,
like
every 3
49,
years,
like
right?
what does 49 take? Do you know?
Yeah, 8 points for archery,
8?
9 points. Yeah,
Yeah, so you've got guys that maybe they were hunting that when it was 4, and then so every, now it's 8, but they're like, well, for over the next 20 years, I'll hunt that unit 3 or 4 times, but in the meantime, I'll hunt every year. That's not
yeah,
you can't do it anymore, or
yeah,
you can't have a long-term strategy to do it anymore,
right.
and that's going to have a weird distortive effect on the draw in Colorado. I wonder how much I wonder if there's not some people that'll just quit coming, or they'll quit coming every year.
Yeah, it is wild how many guys that I talked to this past spring, and they booked a hunt that was like, we're done hunting Colorado. If they get rid of over the counter, we're done doing this BS. It's like, I don't know. That's taking it one step too far, but it is. I mean, I've had that conversation with many people that just, if we can't hunt over the counter, we don't want to go.
Yeah, so I mean, one thing that pops in my mind, like I understand their sentiment, you know what I mean? Um, but the obvious rebuttal is, what are you going to do? Like,
Yeah,
where
you're
are you
not
going?
going to go elk hunting. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
because
gonna no, or you're gonna go to Utah and do the over the counter spike hunt. You
right.
know?
Like, well, that's the thing, dude, is all the other opportunities that the hunts that are, easy to draw, let's call them, like all of the rest in all the other states, excluding Colorado, they don't add up to the opportunity that you have in Colorado.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So if you write off Colorado for archery elk hunting, I don't think outside of doing like hunts like that, doing spike hunts or these unique things that the reality is they don't pan out like a lot of people think. They're a lot harder than a lot of people think. But if you
yeah,
exclude those, I think if you exclude Colorado, you really can't bet on elk hunting every year. I think the only way to archery elk hunt every year is going forward is still to hunt Colorado a lot. I don't think there's a
yeah.
word. I don't think there's a way around that. You know what I mean? Unless you want to spend, unless you got, unless there's other factors. You got a lot of money, land.
And
You're
a
doing other
landowner tag.
things.
Yeah,
Yeah, like you can hunt elk every year, but
yeah. I mean, I know there's still decent opportunity to be had in Idaho. Um, but that's not feasible for a lot of people. I mean, getting accessing it is crappy at
yeah,
best, right? Like, if you think you're gonna go hike in to the Selway,
yeah.
um, good luck. I mean, yeah, you can hike in a little bit, but
Yeah.
uh,
Well, and the thing is like I already see it within the people that I talk to, the people in my membership group and all that stuff, Jimmy. There's spillover occurring. You know what I mean? And I think actually the non-resident call in, whatever for their tags is December 10th, I think. And it's going to be really interesting how that looks this year, because I think there's going to be a huge spillover of guys from Colorado that are looking around for options, and they haven't hunted the Selway, the Salmon, all those like really remote units that you can get tags pretty readily, or historically you have been in Idaho. I think there's going to be massive spillover, and those are going to get harder to get. Going to
Yeah.
be harder to
Th-
get.
I just want to like the these historically over the counter areas for non-residents. Guys are still gonna be able to hunt them.
Right.
I'm gonna bet a lot of money they're gonna be able to hunt every year. You're just not gonna be able to build a point and go hunting.
And then, but then,
Guys just have to figure that out. Like, what would do they want to go and maybe they instead of doing a hunt every year, they go and do a slightly higher quality hunt every 3 years
right.
or every
Yeah, you got
5
to,
years.
you basically got to choose what kind of hunter you want to be.
Yeah, yeah.
And then,
You want to go?
but then assuming there's not like a bunch of negative population dynamics going forward, maybe 3-4 years from now, that you could develop a strategy again that includes building points and hunting a unit. If you know there's
Yeah,
second choices, we just don't know
yeah.
what that's going to be.
Or if a guy is open to just building a point and then going and just watching the secondary draw or the leftover list like a hawk, have a list of 15 units that they look at every single day. As soon as one of those tags become available, go pick it up and be okay going to a unit that they haven't spent any time or very little time in before.
Yeah.
There's still plenty of hunting opportunities.
Yeah, no, I think
Don't
I
get
think you're
discouraged.
right. I think you're right, dude. And I think there's in some ways, Jimmy, it's kind of it might be better for some guy like an individual archery hunter from an individual archery hunter's perspective, it may be better just to decide. I'm hunting 35 or what I don't know if 35 I'm hunting X unit every year. Like that is my future of my elk hunting. I'm not going to
Yeah.
hunt, this unit for 2 years and then hunt this other unit that takes 2 points and then I got to deal with the draw, whatever. I'm just going to be a guy that hunts this sets of units for the next 20 years. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, dude. You know what I mean?
No, they're probably gonna be better off. I mean, honestly, like it and if you just picked one of these units, right, you could go and um if there's someone that's unsure, like if they're gonna go and they're gonna be an archery hunter in unit 35. Well, go go and let's say unit 35 all of a sudden takes 2 points to draw, but your third season bull tag, your third rifle season bull tag is still over the counter. Go hunt it over the counter for a year. Figure out if that's the unit you want to go and be a devout archery hunter in. Right?
Right.
Obviously, November looks different than September, but just go in there. Is that where I want to go? And then just become an expert in that one unit. And honestly, you're going to end up probably killing more and more big stuff in that one unit once you have it dialed in than rotating through a handful of units
Yeah, yeah.
every
I
year.
I dude, I think I mean, guys that the reality is, I mean, you see it with your clients and it's just the nature of elk hunters, Jimmy. There's guys that want elk hunting to be their primary hobby. And if they grind at it long enough, they realize like, holy shit, this is really hard. And I'm talking about people that they can't blow 20 grand on an elk hunter, 50 grand on an elk hunter. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about like your average dude that just wants to be an elk hunter. They're like, all right, this is like a lifelong endeavor to do this. You know, I think you're totally right. Their best bet by far is just learning a set of units. I mean, it's like exponentially more important than, you know, saving up, not hunting for 3 years and hunting a 3 point unit and then not hunting for 3 years and hunting a three
Yeah,
point unit. You're for sure way better off just hunting, you know, just,
every year.
right.
Yeah,
And then at the same time, um, if you're more of like a casual elk, I mean, I don't know if you're more of a casual elk hunter, there's a bigger question to be answered, like is a 2 point unit once this all pans out, is it really going to be that much better than a unit that you draw with no points? I don't know.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
don't know. I mean,
yeah,
it's not a 2-point unit isn't 2 times better than a 1-point unit.
right.
A 4-point unit's not better than a 1-point unit, but there's these little increments that
Add
in
up.
some sense add up, right? Not to say that there's more elk, and I mean there might be more elk in a 1-point unit than a 4-point unit, but they're just more callable because there's less hunting pressure.
Yeah, yeah, sure. It's easier to get around the unit or whatever.
Yeah,
There's all a bunch of different dynamics. But yeah, no, it's yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it all pans out because it's so unknown, man. But dude,
yeah,
I've had you on for freaking almost an hour and 40 minutes, man. So
yeah.
let's bang out the questions that I ask everybody, man.
Uh-huh.
What do you got for overrated gear and underrated gear? In any like recent stuff that you've been trying or anything like that?
No, I mean so like obviously probably what everyone says, your boots and your pack and all
Sure.
that kind of stuff, for sure matter. But do like guys that are carrying a bipod on their rifle, throw that sucker out the window unless it's a hatch out west bipod. Um, that's the that's hands down, like, if you're gonna use a bipod, it's got to be a hatch. Throw the other ones out because you can sit um, while you use it. You don't have to be laying prone, and it attaches so easily. That would be like one of my bigger ones.
Yeah,
Um,
and you're talking about just because of the height, like it gives you the other
the
shooting
height,
positions.
the
Yeah,
height, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's pretty darn stable. I'll give them
yeah,
that, but just those, I forget what those brands are of the bipods that have like the little springs and stuff on
yeah.
them.
The Harris, the Harris
Yeah,
bipod.
the Harris. Yeah,
Yeah.
those things like you're not they're not functional
Well, you
in the
don't you don't
mountains
get the you don't get the
90% of the time.
yeah, you just don't get the opportunity to use them.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
rarely do you get to actually lay prone, and if you did get to lay prone, I mean, they're so. I mean, I guess I do know they make different sizes ones, but they're 4 inches or whatever, and
Right.
you're gonna be blasting through grass.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just
Um,
vegetation and all that sort of thing. I'll let you continue, Jimmy. But one thing I
yeah,
want to mention because I'm like a huge. I've had my hatch bipods for like I don't know, dude, a long time. You know when I bought mine was I think you're the one who turned me on to 'em.
yeah,
Like, you were guiding some
yeah,
Texans, and you're like, "Dude, you gotta see these
yeah,
bipods these guys got."
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah. I
I
remember that.
remember I looked it up and I saw them, and even at that time, I was like, "Holy shit, those things are expensive." You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And I bought one, I paid full price for one, and I've got 2 now, and, I'm the dude, same way, like, they're the best. I've got a couple buddies that shoot off Spartans, and
uh-huh,
I think they have some that are maybe similar height, allow you to shoot prone, but you can also shoot, kinda like a seated, almost like Indian
uh-huh,
style shot, which is common shot. I think that's kinda what you're alluding to, like, it allows you to shoot that height. One thing I'll say, dude, that I realized this year is if you're a real tall guy, if you're like a 6'2", 6'4" type of guy, some of those guys can't shoot seated with them. They're too low.
oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think they make some different height ones.
Yeah, yeah. I guess they make one. I don't know the different variations. I think I have like the mid tier one. I guess what I'm saying is if you are a tall guy and you're gonna spend that type of money on one of those things,
Yeah,
make sure
try it
it's
probably.
yeah, make sure it's a height that you can actually shoot the seated position. Because you can
Yeah,
get you if you don't have the height, basically now all you have is a really expensive bipod that you can still only shoot prone on. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
you
Do you and you you know what's funny on those? I can't shoot prone on them because I'm,
Oh, really?
just like they're too tall for me to
Oh, the
to actually.
hatches?
Like if I was going to actually try to shoot prone, I can't do it.
Right.
I've got to
Right.
like I got to like dig the bipod in.
Yeah, but you're not
Um,
shooting but you're never
but
shooting prone.
I'm not shooting that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so that,
So you
that'd be. You go ahead.
no, no, you just got
Oh
to
yeah,
figure
no
that
that
out, you know.
yeah that'd be I mean and it's probably because I just like the knickknacks. Again the boots and the packs and that stuff are what probably actually matter more than your hatch bipod. But did you know that actually on the pack front, if you're doing a drop camp or truck hunting or day hunting, I don't the guys that have that come out with $1,000 Kafaru backpack to to day hunt close to camp is actually it's kind of comical. You really you can go get away with a child's backpack, a school backpack, um,
Yeah.
for your everyday. And then if you do get something, then yeah, maybe go back to your truck and get your pack frame. The pack frame's gonna be way better um, than your internal frame anyway. It's just the internal's a nice do it all.
Right.
Um, so I'd say like your pack is overrated if you're a truck hunter or doing a drop camp where you don't actually have to pack your stuff in on your
Sure.
back to get to your camp. The other one would be game bags. I saw this a lot. Um, the game bags that guys like, and this is during September. The cheesecloth material game bags,
Mhm.
that you can actually like see little
Yeah.
holes through. Guys that use those in September are, in my opinion, one of two things. They're either disgusting and they don't care, or they've never shot something in September. Because
Yeah.
if you hang your meat up in September, even in the shade, and you come back the next day to pack it out or to pack out your last quarter or whatever, the amount of fly eggs that are laid on those will blow anybody's mind.
Right.
I mean, it looks like somebody just poured rice all
Yeah.
over it.
I mean, every time
Um,
every time a fly touches them, they lay those eggs, and then
yeah,
and they like magically appear. It's kind of crazy. And in your world, dude, it's interesting, Jimmy. Like in your world, it's so important, man, because if they get fly eggs on them and they don't get packed out in September till the next afternoon, they're gonna have maggots on them.
yeah, yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah. I mean, we get in there in 24 hours, and they have a disgusting amount of of eggs on them.
Yeah, and
24 hours later,
eggs that are expanding. Yeah,
yeah, and then 24 hours after that, yeah, it'll be wiggling.
yeah, yeah.
And
So
and
that
and I mean, yeah, and any outfitter, you know, I think any reputable outfitter in September is obviously trying to get your meat out, but
sure,
God forbid they have some kind of issue where they
right?
can't get your meat out. Now it's gonna be crawling.
Yeah,
It's gonna be
yeah, I know.
wiggling.
And it's dude, I mean, they'll even outside of the game bag deal. I mean, if you don't even put them, I mean, just if, dude, I've had them like this year. I was quartering a bull, crazy hot, like I don't know, first week of October, crazy warm. You would have thought the bugs were dead by then, but they weren't because it's just like nice temps, you know. And
Uh-huh.
flies were going freaking berserk while we were quartering this bull, and there was eggs on it. I mean, it didn't matter because these quarters were literally in a cooler in like 2 hours. So like
Yeah.
eggs are dead, just scratch them off. Like it's not the end of the world. But you're talking about a situation where they didn't sit at all. They were literally like boom, quarter off the bull in the cooler on the truck in like an hour, and you're still gonna have eggs on them. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
even if you use like the synthetic material where flies can't get on it, you could still end up with eggs. You know what I mean?
Oh
That
yeah.
get
Like,
landed during the
and
process.
you know like um you put a front shoulder in your reusable or whatever game bag you have, and you have that like little nub, right? Like that sticks
Mhm.
up. That it's just the, I mean, it's just bone and
Yeah,
shank and
sure.
stuff. That is completely covered
Oh, yeah. Yep.
in no time, you know. So
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you have a particular bag that you like, Jimmy, or you just like the synthetic material?
no, I have the QU ones. You know,
Yeah.
they are pricey, but um I would venture, and I've run through a bunch of them. Not any fault of the bag itself, um, as to why they're destroyed. You know, it's like me hanging the quarter in a tree, and it catching on a limb, or like me
Yeah, yeah.
lifting it up. I broke a limb off, and it just rips the bag. Like it's not the bag's fault. But I bet I have some that are, you know, I don't know, close to 10 years old. You know, that just made it through. You know, being lucky, not getting torn. Um, and just come home, throw it in a 5-gallon bucket with some just water at first, rinse it out, wring them out, do it again with some dish soap, and then do it a third time with some like a thimbleful of bleach and air dry them. You know,
Yeah.
and it actually, I bet, yeah, you know, I might have had $100, or you know, might have spent $150 in game bags over the last 10 years, but it's cheaper than buying the single use game bags, that because they're $20 a pop, you know, for
Sure.
four of
And
them.
they're yeah, and they're
So,
like
and you're throw them out,
your
and your meat's
reusable
disgusting. Yeah, yeah,
right. And your reusable ones are lighter by quite a bit. You know what I mean? If you're
yeah.
trying to
I'm sure. I mean, I haven't really weighed them or compared them in weight, but
right.
I would venture a guess. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. No,
as to
that's a good one, man. And now, dude, there's freaking everybody's making them. Everybody's making those, lighter weight bags. So there's a lot of different options for people.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know.
And I think any of them are probably fine. I just have a lot of QU crap.
Yeah, from
So
dude, from my
went
experience,
with it.
with them, Jimmy, and I'm sure I'm wrong, but I have not noticed any difference. And I've used a lot of different ones. I've used our
Oh yeah,
Golly ones; they're great. I've used the QU ones. I've used those Graxaw guys. I have some. All of them have worked well, but I couldn't
yeah.
say that I can like point to things that really distinguished one over the other.
No,
The only thing I will say, man, this is just because I'm OCD. There are Golly ones now. They sell a set that on the bag it says like I think it says tag. It says like tag or something like that
oh
out
yeah,
on the outside of the bag. So if you have those, you got to stick your tag in with the meat, and then if you got it in the cooler or whatever, you're not like digging into every bag and
yeah,
untying it. You know that you
yeah,
stuck it into the bag that it says tag on it. So that's kind of a
yeah,
cool, kind of a gimmicky thing, but it's functionally kind of cool.
yeah, yeah. You know, and then um, the other one would be like a little kill kit.
Yeah.
And I just that's just to help keep it organized out there. Like you can kind of see my background here. It's disgusting, and I've got crap all over the place. But in my hunting pack, it is very organized. Like my headlamp always goes in the exact same spot, and my knives, and my kill kit that also has like little, it's got a couple band-aids in there. It's got some Neosporin sutures, but for harvest photos. Um, my knife, Sharpie for the tag, some paracord, uh, flagging tape, and everything's right in that spot, because I don't
Right.
use my uh, any other knife for skinning or quartering than what's in my kill kit. That way, that sucker is sharp, ready to go
Yeah.
every single time.
Yeah. You
You
don't have to
know.
worry. You don't have to worry about it and have dude, I never understood that, Jimmy, because me and you both know guides that just like ad hoc their shit in their pack. I never understood
Yeah,
that, man. Like
yeah.
I
You
I
can't.
mean, No, and you're always working on animals in the dark, and it's so much harder if stuff's not sharp. And dude, it's so easy too because guys will tell me. I mean, I don't view myself as a knife freak, but I'm very meticulous about like what I'm carrying and that sort of thing. And so I think I get viewed from that perspective sometimes. But I'll get people that say, "Oh, I just use, I just carry around this knife on my belt or my pocket, and that's what I use." And it's like, dude, what if you just happen to open, 6 cardboard boxes with that knife and you didn't sharpen
Yeah.
it? Like
Yeah.
that shit
Yeah.
drives me crazy, And I've been in
Well,
those
yeah, or
situations.
yeah, like I remember packing some drop camp hunters out, and we saw a buck, and I jump off the horse to go shoot this buck with a guy, and all of our stuff, the other guys
Yeah.
took our horses, and he didn't have a knife with him, and all I had was the knife that I keep um, on my shaps. Dude, that was that was like
Oh, I know.
the most miserable um, experience trying to quarter a deer with some crappy knife that's not it's not meant for doing that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Yeah. It's dude, I could totally relate to that, Jimmy. I had like the same thing occur. I killed a bull with a guy this year and we were it was not a far hike or anything like that. And I didn't have my pack with me. And it was like one of those things I didn't have my pack with me because I literally could have just ran 500 yards back. You know what I mean? This is the same bull I was talking about where it's really warm and there's flies everywhere or whatever. So I just same deal, pulled the belt off or the knife off my belt and started to go at it. Dude, in like 20 minutes in, I'm like, this sucks. Because this knife, I've been using
Yeah,
it for other things and it's not sharp. It's not like ready to rock, you know?
yeah,
And I find it so interesting that, and it's funny that you brought it up, man, because I get in these conversations with people that are like, "Oh, I do." Like, why are you obsessed with sharpening your knives, Cliff? Like, I can do 3 bulls with my one knife, and I don't know if guys are just straight up lying to me and they're speculating that they could do that, or if there's something else going on. But I gotta sharpen my knife like even good ones so I'm happy, like, I gotta sharpen it halfway through a bull or 3/4 through a bull, for sure in between bulls.
yeah, yeah. I think they're full of shit whoever told you that, and I mean, I guess you could if you had to. I mean, you could probably use a spoon if you really had to
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
quarter something up, but it's not the device for it. You're like, well, so I'm, and I use a Havalon
Mhm.
for the majority of my skinning, and one of the guys last year, he gave me a knife that he made, and I actually love that thing. So I kind of go back and forth and use the Havalon for a good chunk of it, and then use that fixed blade that he made. Um, but one Havalon blade, like right out of the packaging, and as razor sharp as they are, is like by the and it's probably because I'm cheap. I don't like
Yeah.
replacing the blades on them. By the end of it, when you go and pop the head off, that's typically the last thing you end up doing, right? That blade is so dull
Oh, yeah.
that when you take it off, you don't even you barely worry about cutting yourself because it's destroyed.
Yeah. No, for
So
sure. Dude, that I mean, you impress me that you can get through a bull with just one. You know what I mean? I think
yeah,
I mean,
I mean it's dull as crap, but
you're probably careful how you use it too. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
I'll
yeah. When
usually if
I'm good.
no, I just saying if I use a Havalon, I usually go through a couple.
Yeah, yeah, and for me, it's like I make all my I call them like zipper cuts, right? I
Yeah.
make all those first, and then yeah, I try to do as little hacking at the joints with it as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, you ever try to sharpen them?
Yeah, but
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I'm cheap, but I'd rather just put a new one on.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes, like, if they're getting really shitty, you can just, like, hit them a couple times and they'll, like, get you through, you know? But,
Yeah.
what, well, I was gonna ask you what knives you use, but you answered that, dude. So no worries there. Last one, Jimmy. You got 5 minutes?
Huh? Yeah, you bet.
Dude, trait, skill set, anything along those lines that, in your opinion, sets like your average hunter apart from guys that are more successful or just have a more enjoyable hunt? Because nowadays I kind of view those as the same, dude. Is like, guys that are more successful or guys that just enjoy their hunt more. I kind of throw them in the same category. You got any
Yeah.
thoughts on that?
Yeah, like so definitely a characteristic of like the hyper successful guys we touched on already, where they're hunting, they have an elk unit that they hunt, and only that elk unit, and then they might have a deer unit that's different, right? But a
Sure.
lot of times, I bet it's the exact same unit for both deer and elk. So that would be one. But then, the guys that are comfortable being, it's lame, but comfortable being uncomfortable. They're okay if they're cold and it's wet or whatever. That are well, just because that helps them stay out just a 30 minutes longer every day, right? Like
Sure.
instead of going back to camp, they're just out there 30 minutes longer because they they know that as soon as they start walking around, their feet are going to warm up. Like they're nowhere close to frostbite, so they're okay with cold feet for just 15 more minutes.
Sure.
Um, but another one would be guys that are, because I would confidently say I think we all, if everyone looks at themselves, and is honest with it, we all suck at navigating, right? Like, dude, like I honestly, if someone gave me a compass and a map, I'd be pretty darn screwed. And I think most people would be in that. So
Right.
I would like to say navigating, but we all suck at it. But being confident in your survival capabilities, like, all right, if I do get lost, if I do lose my phone with OnX on it, I can make a fire tonight, even in the worst of conditions.
Yeah.
So like a guy that is confident that he can survive a night, again, just helps keep you out there that extra 20 minutes longer. So that way they don't feel like they have to be on the trail on their way back to camp, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
And
and
it,
all of the and then I think the general idea there is the guys that are able to spend the last little bit of time
sure.
out there,
Yeah. And it's
or
all,
or the beginning part. Yeah.
yeah. I like the way that you put it, Jimmy, because it's all correlated, right? Like you can't, it's like, it's harder to be there to the very last, light, which is the prime time, if you're not,
You're afraid of the dark. Well,
yeah,
no, not afraid of the dark, but
you're
yeah,
afraid of something bad happening, right? And like,
yeah,
or you just like you get to thinking yourself, oh, like I only have my one headlamp, and I think the batteries are half run down already. Or just like shit like that. You got to kind of have that
yeah,
all. Got to have that all figured out, and you'll be more confident. But in general, I mean, the best way you said is like you got to have the mentality is like, if all the shit goes bad and we end up staying out here tonight, it's not going to be that bad. Those guys are the
yeah,
best.
yeah. We'll get through it. Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Um, and then yeah, I think on a guided hunt, or on any of these hunts, if they don't they don't put the pressure on themselves that they have to go home with an animal, if they're okay to go home empty-handed, um, I think that, I don't know, just going out there with like a pure pure mindset of just enjoying the sunrise when it comes up, and shooting the elk would be or shooting a big deer or whatever would be a bonus. I think that um, those guys are out there for the right reason, you know.
Yeah. And that manifests as positivity, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah. Like,
that's,
oh, we didn't see anything today, man. But how about that? How about that fox we saw hunting mice in the
yeah.
field? Being a guy that can, or a girl, whatever, someone that is, because every day when you're hunting, there's something badass out there,
Oh
right?
yeah.
That you see that nobody else that day is back at camp is gonna have seen that same thing. So if you just soak those up, yeah, you'd be
Yeah. No,
good.
and dude, it I think that's one thing is related to that that is within the guiding world, Jimmy, is I tell guys a lot like, hey, you want to get you want to screw up the value of a guided hunt, be negative. Even if you have a legitimate reason to be negative
Yeah,
about your guide, the camp, whatever, if you're negative, you will get less value out of the hunt because a guide will turn on you. A guide will have less energy to help you on other things, and overall, you're going to get declining value if you're negative. If you have some positivity and you do the things that you're talking about, like get back to camp and think about and talk about the cool shit you saw that day, you're going to get more value out of the hunt. And I'm not talking like in a woo-woo psychological sense. I'm talking about guide's going to work harder for you. The camp's going to be, better run if that negativity is not there.
yeah, yeah,
It,
for sure.
and if you go with a buddy or if you go with hunting buddies or whatever, if it's a drop camp or if you go a pair of guys and you go one time and you got a buddy who's negative, never hunt with them again. That's
Yeah,
not,
yeah,
I'm not saying you're saying that. That's my advice.
yeah.
Cause
No, I would agree with that.
you know,
I think most guys would say that. You
yeah,
know.
that shit's contagious and it's just not worth it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
But
for sure.
dude, Jimmy, awesome chatting, man. It's good to catch up. Well, where can people
Yeah,
follow you, man?
yeah. They can check us out. There'll probably be a laundry list of ones for them, but we're on Instagram at Rivers Bend Outfitters, and then you can check us out on at our website at riversbendoutfitters.com. You can check out Flat Tops Wilderness Guides at flattopswildernessguides.com or um, uh, on Instagram at Flat Tops Wilderness Guides. Same thing with Horn Fork Guides, hornforkguides.com or at Horn Fork Guides on Instagram.
Oh, you guys are like running it all now, dude. I love it. Thanks, dude.
Yeah. Yep. Thanks, Cliff.
If you enjoyed this content, do me a huge favor. Subscribe on whatever platform you consume it on. Spotify, Apple, YouTube, whatever works for you guys. Everything else is on my website, pursuitwithcliff.com. Go there and it's going to be very apparent to you that I work my ass off just to not have a real job. All the hunts I guide, all the seminars I put on, all the unique experiences I offer, and the membership site, all the details are there.